So a really common setup that you encounter on the ACT Science section looks something like this, where you have two different first parts and then two different second parts. And what I'm going to recommend here is something that I call the right to left method, and that involves starting with the explanation, the part on the right, and working backward as opposed to starting on the left. And why would we want to do that? Well, if we get a question like this one, it can be really, really complicated to try to read it and then figure out what information is even needed to determine the answer to the first part. So if you start with the explanation instead, you realize, oh, this is what's needed in order to answer the first part. The second thing is that a lot of times you'll be able to eliminate two options without having to even go back into the passage, like on this one, where the question involves pretty basic background knowledge. So F and H say that charges of like sign are attracted to each other. And no, that's probably the number one piece of outside knowledge to keep in mind on the ACT Science section. Charges of like sign repel each other. Charges of opposite sign are attracted to each other. And so since F and H both state that charges of like sign are attracted to each other, we can eliminate those. But on top of that, this second part that says charges of like sign are repelled from each other, that's going to help us determine whether we want the top plate or the bottom plate. And so now we want to go up to the question, and it says here, suppose that cathode rays are negatively charged, which they are. If E is directed downward as shown in figure 1, which conducting plate is more likely the negatively charged plate? So if this is E and these are negative charges and they're bent upward, that means that that has to be the positive plate and that has to be the negative one, right? The positive one is attracting the negative charges. Conversely, we could say that the negative plate is repelling the negative charges. But they're asking which one is more likely the negatively charged plate, and that's going to be the bottom one. And so another example where we see that exact same pattern, here instead of top and bottom it's yes and no, but we have that same pattern with our explanations. So A and C both say that the boiling point of water is greater than 115 degrees Celsius, whereas B and D say, no, it's not greater than 115. It is less than 115 degrees Celsius. And so this would be another one of those pieces of outside knowledge you want to keep in mind, that 100 degrees Celsius is where water boils, at least at a standard atmospheric pressure. 0 degrees is where it freezes. So if we're up here at 115, that is greater than the boiling point of water. So the boiling point of water is less than 115 degrees. So eliminate A and C. So we've gotten rid of 2 of the 4 choices and now use that to figure out whether it's yes or no. So it says here, based on the boiling point of water and the description of step 3, was the student's prediction, the prediction that water would be one of the substances collected in the test tube, was that prediction correct? So step 3 here says the contents of the flask were boiled at 1 atmosphere of pressure. So there's the flask, it's boiled. And as it says here, all the components of the mixture that distilled, that basically went from liquid to gas, before the vapor temperature reached 115 degrees were collected in a test tube that cooled in ice water. So if water is in here, you heat it to a temperature above its boiling point, that water is going to boil, it's going to go up there, and it's going to be caught in the test tube. And so, yes, the student predicted that water would be one of the substances collected in the test tube, and the answer to that is going to be yes. But now, if you're running out of time and you're not able to get the first part, at least by starting with the explanation, you get rid of 2 of the 3 wrong answers, and at that point, it's 50-50.